When I turned 24, I thought that I'd left the chaos of my early 20s behind, but it turns out I was totally and completely wrong, and I genuinely don't even know how that's possible, but 24 is somehow worse. I accidentally started deconstructing religion, and I don't even know how we ended up here, but we did. And it's been a really transformative experience. Religion has something that has like brought me closer together with my family and has been a part of my life basically my entire life. And it's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So deconstructing is something that I'm having a very hard time doing, especially when I'm in such close proximity to my family members who have a lot of expectations of me and religion and how I should show up in the world. But deconstruction is not something that I felt like I was completely in control of, and it still isn't. Much like God, the questions have felt omnipresent in my life. Like from the moment I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about it, to the moment I go to bed at night, I'm constantly thinking about the questions that I have about the universe and God. Someone suggested that I stop talking about it and stop thinking about it, but if I could have stopped thinking about it, I would have a long time ago. Unfortunately, that's not really the case, and I feel like deconstruction is something that people do not really understand when they're on either side of it, whether they're like involved in religion or not involved with religion. If you've never gone through a deconstruction process, then you genuinely would not understand like what it feels like to be in the thick of it. It's very confusing and complicated, and I think being in your 20s is already confusing and complicated.
Welcome to my YouTube channel, I guess. We're gonna be going through some stuff together. So if you're lost in your 20s, you're not alone. If you're questioning the entire fucking universe right now, you're also not alone. Because it's really hitting me that we're just on a floating rock in the middle of space, yet humanity is literally plagued with lust, violence, anger, greed, gluttony, and it's like we're on a floating rock in the middle of the fucking universe right now. And our biggest problem is that we can't stop like hoarding resources and other people. What is our issue? Yet people on earth are trying to convince me that God is going to care whether or not I cover my fucking hair. Feels like we have bigger fish to fry, low key. Anyway.
One of the hardest things about exploring who you are and changing, perhaps even fundamentally in your 20s, is that there are so many expectations based on who you have been up until this point. I feel like whomever I interact with in my life, whether that be my parents, my friends, or other family members, coworkers, they all have this perception of me that they have built up in their heads, and I am somehow feeling as though I am expected to fulfill whatever role that is that they have constructed. And it's not that I'm not that person, it's just that I'm not always that person. And I'm tired of pretending to be that person at all times, whatever that person is, because I feel like there are many versions. I'm a coworker, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, and all of these versions of me feel very distinct, and it's uncomfortable when they overlap. And it's never that I'm not myself, I'm always myself, but I feel like I'm never totally myself. I'm always just one version of myself depending on the situation that I find myself in, and that is hard. Perhaps being in your 20s is really all about just not really knowing who you are and maybe reinventing yourself a little bit. But I will say the process is messy, disgusting, and painful. My natural inclination when I'm faced with feelings that make me feel so vulnerable is to retract from the world and interact with my friends, my family, my coworkers on a smaller scale. Even though I know that this isn't the most healthy coping mechanism, it's something that I find myself doing. Naturally, this has all taken a toll on my mental health, and I often wake up feeling rather anxious, which is something that's not usually like me. Something I'm learning to do is feel less alone and lean more on my support systems like my boyfriend and my friends, which is obviously easier said than done because my life is always throwing me curveballs.
Man, especially a young white male man, don't ever
Like UPS or USPS? What are we talking? Amazon maybe? Do they count?
Man.
Does eBay? Me studying for my Japan trip. Did I hit the nail on the head?
People often say that your 20s is the time for you to explore yourself and to reinvent yourself a couple of times and to move away to a new city and make new friends and start a new relationship or date around, etc., etc. And these are like common things that I hear when people are talking about their 20s. But I want to share something that I heard someone say that stuck with me. They said they didn't really understand the hype about being in their 20s because looking back, they would say during their 20s, they were a mess. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know where they were going, and they had a lot of shit to figure out.
but they would say that perhaps their 30s were actually their best years when they had more of life figured out. Of course, I do think that you will never completely figure life out and you're always changing, learning, and growing. But I think your 20s are maybe meant to be messy. And this is something that I'm kind of trying to embrace more as I explore my 20s. It's hard for me to really like wrap my brain around the fact that I'm actually turning 25 this year. All right, guys, I did my makeup. I look so cute. See, I promise I kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit know how to do my hair. Not totally, but sort of. This is the top of my boyfriend's head. This curl looks crazy and this curl looks also crazy, but my hair's a little bit heat damaged, okay? It's fine. We're going to Build-A-Bear and I'm just excited because I look cute today. And it feels like I should have everything figured out by 25. Of course, that's definitely not true. And I definitely do not have everything figured out by 25. And I don't have everything figured out by 24. And I'm learning how to be okay with that because it's definitely easier said than done. At 25, you're in this weird spot where you open Instagram and you're constantly seeing that people are either getting married or buying their first house or selling all of their things and moving to Paris or something, or backpacking across the world, and you're like sitting there in front of your phone wondering, what the fuck am I doing wrong and why has none of this happened to me yet? But part of my religious deconstruction has led me to the conclusion that perhaps there is not one universal truth, just like there's not one perfect way to live your life and not one perfect way to experience your 20s to the fullest. That looks different for literally everyone, and perhaps God and religion operate the same way. I think a lot of people would really heavily disagree with me, and that's okay. I'm not here to change anybody's mind about literally anything because clearly I am still figuring out what it is that I want out of life and what it is that I believe. But I truly do deeply believe that there is no God that I would choose to believe in or ascribe to that would not forgive me for not understanding why I am here, especially if I'm trying so hard to find the truth. If I believe that God is merciful, which I do, then I have to then believe that if I do everything in my power to find the truth, whatever that looks like, and I still land in the wrong spot, that at the end of the day, God will choose to forgive me, knowing that I tried my very best. Okay, hey girls. I know I look a little different. I got a pink wig. Let's get into it, right? She's so tea. I'm so excited to wear that. She's so cute. And it's giving Fluttershy with the yellow top, right? Anywho, that being said, we're going out to ramen later with my friends. One of my friends' visa got denied, and so she has to move back to her country like all of a sudden. Basically, her visa was denied. So we're really sad about this because this is like basically goodbye. Like I genuinely don't know when the next time I'm gonna see her is, and it makes me really sad. Like I had a hard time with this news. I can only imagine how she feels, but yeah, it's definitely like just crazy to think that like I've been friends with her for like what, 4 years? 5 maybe, almost 5, and or maybe 3, almost 4. I have no idea. I feel like I've been friends with her for like a good portion of my adult life at this point. And yeah, it's just crazy to me that she's moving away, and I genuinely don't know when the next time that I'll see her is, especially with like rising fuel prices and, you know, plane tickets costing more, and like just different world events are going to make it difficult for me to see my friends who move back home to their countries if they have no choice but to move. So yeah, it's bittersweet, but I'm excited to hang out with my friends because I haven't hung out with them in a little while. For the past couple of days, I've been in a lot of pain, and so that's why I haven't like been filming. I basically had like a mini flare-up, and I think I'm fine now. I think we're back on track, possibly. But yeah, and I don't know what the weather's like, but it is sunny outside, and so I can be happy at least for that. The universe and fate work in very mysterious ways, and that's something that I've also learned in my like 2.5 decades of being alive. The older I get, the more introverted I think I become, but despite that, I think my friends really bring me out of my shell. And I really, really missed my friend Miet, and I will miss her more as she has now left the country, and I don't know when I'll see her again. But I think fate has a crazy way of bringing people together and then bringing them apart and then bringing them back together. And I know that Miet and I's path will cross again in the future.
We spent a lot of time discussing the events that led up to Miet's visa being denied. And as we were doing that, I think we all sort of came to the conclusion that maybe everything does happen for a reason. The way that things happen sometimes really sucks, but sometimes they happen for a reason. And maybe it's just to set us on the path that we need for the future. Being in your 20s can feel really freaking lonely, but by the end of my conversation with my friends, I realized that we were all sort of going through similar things or had gone through similar things in the past. It's pretty scary to be on a floating rock in the middle of space, but there's nobody I'd rather be on a floating rock in the middle of space with than my friends. Being lost in your 20s maybe is just a formative experience that we all have to go through in order to get to the places that we are all meant to be in the future. And it's all very confusing, I know. I don't know where this journey will lead me, but I do know that it will lead me back to you, and that we'll see each other again very soon. And when we do, we'll be better versions of ourselves. Until next time.